Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like. We appreciate it.
We got a podcast below in the description. Go subscribe to that as well.
We are sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka, John.
Yep. American-made, Austin, Texas. Tito, #1 vodka in America. Go get yourself Tito's.
It was not traditional the way he intended to start the game, what his plan was, but his plan kind of went out the window as it turned out.
Well, Jimmy ended up playing 15, plays, right? They had a long first drive. When it got announced with John Lynch, and it felt like they kind of did that on purpose, like he was being interviewed before the game on the field with those guys and kind of announced that, almost like setting the tone. I immediately text you because you were the lone guy who I thought it was over. Everyone kind of feels like it was over. Jimmy was going to start. Then it was, whoa, is this thing what these media people see in practice, and you and I have been to some of these practices, unless you're actually talking to Kyle and the staff about what they truly believe when they go back and watch the tape. Like when I was a part of training camps, you spend so much time watching the practice film, discussing the practice film, evaluating the practice film. So what you see on the practice field is obviously it all happens there, but then the discussion of it is such a huge part, and we're not privy to any of that. And Kyle, clearly with the situation, I think there's a lot going on internally that the media is just off on. And I saw tonight when it was announced, and I'm guilty too, but clearly that Trey had an opportunity to still be the starter week 1 headed into tonight, I think. Kyle can say whatever he'll talk after the game. We're doing it before he talks. He can say whatever he wants. Like, you don't do the Taysom Hill, Jameis, I guess Drew Brees thing that they had intended to do without some thoughts of like, let's just see who the better man is tonight.
Yeah. When we talked about it Thursday, Kyle said we're going to evaluate whether or not Trey Lance gets some first-team reps on Friday. And so our take on Thursday was basically like, if he's not getting first-team reps on Friday, this thing is over. Right? Now, he kind of couched it at the time and not, hey, this is a competition. More so, I just want him to play against Derwin James and Joey Bosa. Guys like that, they're not playing in this preseason game. So the only chance he's going to get to play against guys like that is in Friday's practice. So we kind of wait. Friday rolls around. He gets first-team reps. Then we get the plan. He's going to get 2 first-team series, and then Jimmy's going to come back. But then Jimmy got a 15-play drive, ended in a pick, by the way. And then Trey, which we'll get to how Trey looked. Then he doesn't look great, so then he plays more and plays more and plays more. And it goes from me saying at the beginning of the game, not that many guys who don't have a chance to start get to play with the ones in the preseason to not that many guys who have a chance to start are playing in the third quarter of the preseason. Yeah. So I think all of that is to say, maybe to some degree for Kyle, it's a pretty fluid situation. Well, as we watched the last 3 days, Thursday, no Trey ones. Friday, Trey ones. Saturday, they had a plan to start the game and the plan changed. This is a very fluid situation. I don't know if it's fluid in Kyle's mind, let me put it that way, but it is fluid in the way it's playing out.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to give you a lot of credit, that you were one of the lone guys. It was way more fluid than the way I think it was perceived on the outside, from the media to the fans, right? Because I would imagine if you were just polling people this last week, oh, Jimmy's just going to start, right? That just was the feeling. That's what I felt. That just kind of was the overall feeling. Kyle in his back pocket was not feeling that, though, right? That's clearly what happened. Then tonight, he pivoted fast, too. I don't want to say it's over because now I had to reevaluate some things when they came into this game. But it did go pretty well for Jimmy, the way that whole thing started. He let him down. The problem is, we'll get into Jimmy here in a second, at the end of the day, this is where I have to realize when evaluating the situation, Jimmy is not some top 10 quarterback. So there was a highlight that came out a couple days ago in the heated practices against these guys. Jimmy throws a pick 6 against Derwin James. And when you watch the highlight of it,
in the baby zone,
the throw is terrible, right? Derwin's all over Kittle, but he throws it like behind Kittle when he's covered. It's just these things that clearly in practice, it's not like Jimmy separates like he's some top 8 guy in the league who just dominates, right? It's just not happening. So Trey in these practices to Kyle is staying alive. But eventually, like there is a difference in making some sweet reps against Derwin James for sure. And while the game scenario tonight he's playing against backups. Like that's who they were all playing against, right? With the starters for the Chargers not in the game. But it is a fucking game, and they're trying to sack you, and you just went, well, there's a lot going on right now for the young fella.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you're right. Like, even if you've got 9 starters on the field, if you don't have Derwin James and Joey Bosa, if you don't have Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, then it's a different team. But, I don't think it's irrelevant that he looked the way he looked by the end. I don't know. I don't think it'll be irrelevant to Kyle that he led a nice touchdown drive against third-teamers in the third quarter or whatever it was. That's why he had him out there, because he thought it'd be valuable experience.
Well, he threw 2 touchdowns.
He just needs to be thrown to Sherfield.
Yeah, but I mean, he legitimately led 2 touchdown drives, like threw 2 touchdowns, threw one to Benjamin, and obviously threw one to Sanu in the red zone. Like he threw 2 touchdowns. Now, this is what gets difficult about the preseason, and this is why I think Kyle, like ultimately, the guy hasn't played that much. Like, to me, if you could have easily justified, I think they're kind of trying to throw Sudfeld a bone because he hadn't played a snap, is that you could have played him the whole second half, right? He just needs work. He just needs time. He just needs work. Like, to me,
I don't know how much you want to put playing behind like a third-string offensive line, but
yeah, I mean, that's probably why they ended up pulling him out. But he's everything you'd want he's a project, a good project. He's a talented project. But I think, as you see tonight, like, it's a work in progress project.
Yeah. And
this, I'm getting people tweeting at me like, I bet he's furious about Mac Jones. The whole thing about this draft pick was this had nothing to do with Week 1, 2021. I would, if that's the way you're thinking when you make a trade like that, you deserve to get fired. And I'm just talking in general. It is a big picture draft pick. Right? It was never even about 2021. It's about the next 5, 10. It's a decade. That's what it's about when you make a pick, in the top 5 at a quarterback, right?
Right.
The big picture. And clearly, like right now, because if you wanted to argue, if you needed to win a game tomorrow, I would say you might be better off with Mac Jones. Tomorrow, 2021, August 23rd. And that might not be true because Trey can run around too, but just to run your offense, you probably Mac Jones would give you the better chance to win. Well, but that's not what the draft pick was about.
This video brought to you in part by our friends at DraftKings. Promo code HAM. Download it now. Play the Wild Cards Instant Win Challenge for your share of up to $50 million.
And our friends at Manscaped.com. Promo code HAM. 20% off. Free shipping. Manscaped.com. Promo code HAM.
Well, you just said it, though, too. Trey Lance runs by design and practice more than he has run in any of these preseason games by design, right? And so that has to be part of what, like Kyle Shanahan, the thing that he has guaranteed Trey Lance is going to do, which is appear in games. He said it weeks ago. Trey's going to play. We've kind of had that in mind. Like, he's going to play because he's got these run packages at minimum that you think he can execute, right? Threaten the defense with. And that's not available to him in the preseason. And, you nailed that a few weeks ago. You're like, I don't think he's going to run him, and I don't think it's because of injury. I think it's because you don't want to show this stuff. And I said, well, whatever. Who cares about showing it? Like, everyone's seen these plays. But he's not doing it. And you're right. I don't think it's about safety. I think it's about protecting the part of his offense that he absolutely knows that he's going to use early in the year, which is Lance at minimum as a change-up to Garoppolo. And so if we're evaluating, is he ready to play? And we've talked about for months too, you could do a training wheel offense like they did with RG3, and RG3 was the rookie of the year. They went to the playoffs. Well, there's some elements of that offense you wouldn't show in a preseason game. So that's what complicates it a little bit.
But I have no problem with the training wheel offense to start with any young player, and especially a young player that needs it. Like, if he needs some training wheels, I got no problem with putting him on.
Yeah.
But big picture, to me, when you watch the game tonight and they're not making him run really through the 2 preseason games, he needs, for this pick to work out and him to become a really good player, he's going to have to win throwing the ball, right? We often talk about running quarterbacks. Like, his running element is cool. That's a cool addition to have.
Right.
But ultimately, to be a great quarterback, you have to dominate throwing the ball. And you just watch him. I think he's still feeling out touch passes, when to put too much on it, when to not put too much on it, accuracy stuff. Kyle, who probably makes $11-12 million a year because he got that 6-year extension after the Super Bowl. I'm sure he makes stupid money. This is why he gets paid all this money. Like you got to mold this. Like he's called a coach, right? Now the problem is in the season. Once the season starts, it is hard to really improve, right? Like I mean, I do think you get better through playing, but like you're not. He kind of is what he is this year. Like he's just going to be raw. I mean, the more he plays, the better he'll be. But I don't think you're going to act like week 2 to week 10, you're going to get some dramatic, like you do like year 1 to year 2, right? Year 2 to year 3. There would be a lot of ups and downs with a guy who's just pretty, like, you see, he's raw. A lot of stupid physical attributes, but very, very raw.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think part of when you watch him, too, you realize he is, I don't know if it's because they've told him. I don't think it's because they've told him. I think it's naturally him. He's not looking to run on non-run plays. He did it on the goal line on the 2-point conversion, but he tries to stay in the pocket, and sometimes to his detriment, right? And this goes back to some of the biggest highlights. The biggest highlight of camp was a play that should have been a sack. Well, in these games, it's a sack or almost a strip sack.
Yeah. This is why, to me, he left him in the game, because you need the reps where, like, there's a finality to the play. Not where it's like, the whistle blows, but he gets to keep scrambling in a practice. You're like, oh, throw that on Twitter. You know, that he either has to throw the ball, get sacked, run, like the play ends, right? That you know what actually happened. That's my problem with the practice stats. It's like, I don't think anyone really, this goes back to what we opened up talking about. It's hard to truly judge what Kyle knows when everyone on the sideline doesn't truly know whether the play was over to the coaches or not. Right? They let it keep going, but in their mind, they might not count any of that shit, right? But to us on the sideline, it looks like an unreal throw. And it's hard for people when you're not at these practices. Sometimes it is difficult to know, like, is that when they're sitting there in their meeting, like, does that just get a 0? Does that just get X? Like, doesn't even count, right?
Right.
It really is hard to tell sometimes.
Right.
Where in the game, that is not the case. And for a guy who really has just played one game in 2 years, like, again, I'm not trying to like jump off the bandwagon here of just like the guy has immense talent, but I think it is fair to go that there is just it's a work in progress. And I think we often do this, and I am as guilty as charged and as anyone, is that we can just get ahead of ourselves with young players in sports, right? It's not even just football, but definitely in football with quarterbacks. Like we have so much, so fast. It's like, fuck it. You know, it's kind of unfair sometimes, even to a player. But that's part of getting drafted really high. I mean, it comes with the heat, right? Especially a quarterback.